I got a surprise for you, Marky Burns.
What is it?
Bring out the gifts. Here it is. Get up and show everybody how beautiful you are. Now dance. I love this guy.
Thanks for stopping by, Marky Burns, but there will be no deals today.
Mark Carney is flip-flopping on everything, and it's starting to catch up to him. Let's get into this report. During the election campaign, who remembers this? Mark Carney got all tangled up with China.
Hi, Najida Melis, Globe and Mail. My colleagues have a story today about a Liberal candidate's relations with China-friendly groups and a meeting that you also held with a pro-Beijing group. So my question is, why did you meet with this pro-Beijing group, Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada? And is the party okay with the fact that Liberal candidate Peter Yan has been so close with the Chinese consulate and China-friendly groups, given the public inquiry into foreign interference, says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group. Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that, okay? Or your colleagues do. I'm a politician. I go to events where there are hundreds and thousands over the course of a day of different people there. That is not a meeting. If somebody happens to be in the room, takes a picture with me, that's not a meeting, okay? First point. Secondly, with respect to Mr. Yun, this is a person who has served his community for decades. This is a person who's deputy commissioner of the police. Okay, a person in discharge of those responsibilities meets with a variety of community groups in the community because that's his job. That's his responsibility. We're proud to have him as a candidate, and I honor his service, including on today. Thank you.
And here is the response from Robert Fife from the Globe and Mail, responding to Mark Carney. Don't believe everything you read in the newspaper.
This man named Peter Yan is a former deputy police chief. We checked him out, and he is being connected to Beijing-friendly organizations, including this organization who met with Mr. Carney. They echo and repeat the lines of the Chinese Communist Party. The other groups that Mr. Yan met with were the Chinese Freemasons, which talks about annexation of Taiwan. He's been celebrated and had many meetings with the Chinese consulate, which we now know from the public inquiry into foreign interference that the Chinese consulate is the key organizing body for all of these proxy groups that try to influence politicians. So that was the point of our story. But here's the thing I want to talk, and I'm glad Mr. Carney raised this, because here's the reason why. This same group, if you go to the website, after they met him, they wrote a laudatory thing about how great Mark Carney is, how great he is and going to improve Chinese-Canadian relations. So what did we find out on Monday? The site committee, which looks into federal election interference, said that WeChat and China has been trying to mold public opinion involving Mr. Carney. What are they molding? Nice things about him, what a tough guy he is, how he can take on the Americans. So I guess the point here is, has anybody learned anything from the foreign interference inquiry or not? This is the strategy of China to try to influence no matter which political party you are. And rather than trying to attack the media, why doesn't he just say, look, we have to do a better job of dealing with these kind of organizations that are trying to influence politicians?
Maybe, just maybe, Mark Carney is being influenced by China. China did try to help him get elected as prime minister. Now I got this wonderful clip, which will open up some eyeballs.
During your meeting with President Xi, neither Canada's readout or China's made mention of you bringing up things such as Uyghur detention camps or the transnational repression in Canada or Beijing's foreign interference into Canadian elections. Did you bring these issues up?
We had a discussion on foreign interference.
How did he react when you mentioned foreign interference into Canadian
Look,
elections?
we had, we had a discussion that was, our overall discussion was constructive, and it was number one, constructive. Number two, marked a turning point in the relationship. It's important that we are engaged with the world's largest country by population, second largest economy by value, and increasingly influential. So we need to be back in there, and now we are back in having those discussions. I think internationally, I think the biggest security threat to China, Canada is China.
China, you say?
Yeah.
Hi, Prime Minister. Sarah Ritchie with the Canadian Press. If you cast your mind back to April during the election campaign, I know it feels like a long time ago for me, you told Canadians that China was the biggest security threat to this country and to Canadians. Do you still believe that to be the case?
You know, one of the advantages of having your security clearance is you're better informed about some of the threats, and I highly recommend that anyone, either in the position of responsibility or seeking it, has their security clearance. So I have a richer sense of the tapestries of threats that face our country. And I'll choose my words carefully, given that I'm briefed on these matters and have my security clearance and do that. It is one of the largest threats to, with respect to foreign interference, which we have to counter, and we are countering. It is a partner, more than that, with Russia, and is supporting them in its unjustified invasion, illegal invasion of Ukraine. It is a threat within broader Asia and to Taiwan, and so we both have to engage with China, take steps to protect ourselves here, take steps, for example, which we have done in the last few weeks, steps to protect the Arctic. China is a threat, becoming an emerging threat to the Arctic, which is why we will now have, one of the reasons why we'll now have year-round presence in the Arctic, why we have over the horizon radar struck with Australia, why we have announced that we're going to reinforce our icebreakers and our military capabilities in the Arctic. So, as from a geopolitical sense, the biggest threat, we're taking action to.
From my understanding, some of the campaign was pushing positive narratives about you. Why do you think that China, the PRC, seems to like you? Why are they praising you?
I have absolutely no idea, and I have absolutely no idea, and I think I'll leave it at that.
You know what the problem with Mark Carney is? There's something called the internet, and there's people like me that clip these things so we could all see him go from one thing to the other thing. It's a complete flip-flop from Mark Carney. He's tangled himself up in a knot. Fast forward to today, and you're not going to believe this clip of Mark Carney.
Ian Austin from the New York Times. You described your meeting with President Xi as a turning point in relations with China. What changed to make that happen, and what needs to happen now to make sure that forward momentum continues and things don't reverse again?
I think we both described it as such. First point. I think at its core, it is about the way we treat each other, interact with each other. What we were saying earlier is sort of pragmatic engagement. Where can we engage? Where are we not going to engage? Where do we agree? Where can we build? Where do we disagree? And we're not. And being clear about that. And there may be some bumps along the way when there's some ambiguity, but ironing those out as quickly as possible. And then there is, because there are a lot of areas where cooperation makes sense. Look, I'll give you an example. We are two countries that care about climate change and care about global solutions to climate change. Right there's an enormous area for cooperation. We are two countries, at least Canada traditionally has been a country who understands the international monetary and financial system and the changes in the international monetary and financial system, understand the importance of financial stability, the issues with transition and other aspects. This is an issue when you're the rising economic power. So there's another area of engagement there. So there's a host of places where there is an alignment of issue above and beyond the direct commercial ties.
All right, we're going to have to debunk his claim about both countries are aligned when it comes to climate change. Annual CO2 emissions around the world. If you take a look at China, it is going straight up. There's no slowing down. Every 2 weeks, there's a new coal burning power plant that's being built. They continue to emit more than anyone. Look at how fast they're growing as well. They're not looking at emissions whatsoever. Canada is not even on this chart because our emissions are so low. Get ready for the data because I love showing people data. See these little purple blue dots? That represents 354 brand new under construction coal-fired power plants that are currently being constructed in China, with hundreds on the way. And there's like another 400 plus, the green ones, that are permitted or pre-permitted or announced. So every single year, there's going to be like 350 brand new power plants by coal. Check out the growth of coal. They're not even flatlining. It's just going straight up. 58% of all their electricity comes from dirty coal. China doesn't give two figs about climate. Mark Carney's been praising China for a long time. This is way before the election, or before he showed up and wanted to be Prime Minister of Canada.
One of the many strengths of China is their perspective, their medium long-term perspective. This is an ambitious G20. It's an ambitious Chinese leadership.
Ambitious Chinese leadership. Now that I showed you all this data, what is he talking about?
In my experience with China, they are, amongst other things, very sincere and engaged on climate. This is a country run by engineers. This is a country that understands a lot of the engineering solutions to issues around emission. They've happened to have built real competitive advantage in a number of these areas as well. So there's a question of how, and there's almost a standing offer from them about how to engage in the global comments in and around climate.
They're building almost one coal power plant per day and the number one emitter on the planet. And this guy tries to convince us that they are leading the way. Oh boy, you can't fool everybody. And this is not the first time Mark Carney talked about China.
Issues around the new industries, particularly around China. China's leadership in climate change and the further acceleration that's necessary for that. That's a crucial discussion.
That's enough about Mark Carney and China, but we could see there's something happening there. We just found out that Scotiabank is cutting over 2,500 jobs, and these are all in the city of Toronto. Oh my goodness, that every single day we wake up, jobs are getting cut. A brand new Abacus poll has just been modeled out, and it looks rather blue. I see blue everywhere. If we had an election today, Abacus would have it as Conservatives 165 seats. That's 5 seats away from a majority government. And the Liberals would lose 23 seats to go down to 146. It looks like Canadians are waking up. This is great news. We got some more data, and I can't believe this set of data. The dark side is running a deficit to invest in programs for Canadians, and the red side is balancing the budget to ease the tax burden on Canadians. And then the end is not sure. Today, we are at half. Half the population wants us to spend, and the other half is like, please, just stop so that inflation will get under control. Now that we've seen half the population wants to spend more, The other half wants things to get under control. Let's see what Pierre Poilievre has to say.
Coming back to the budget, lowering taxes is great for people who pay taxes, and that's often middle and higher income. Thinking about the kind of people who'd use this food bank, lower income Canadians who may not benefit from lower taxes in a big way, are there some other affordability measures that a Conservative government or that Conservatives might advocate now, specifically aimed at the folks who might use this place?
Yes, absolutely. I want to cut the worst, most immoral tax of all, the tax that targets the poorest people the most, and that is the inflation tax. Inflation happens when governments print money and bid up the cost of everything people buy. It is proven beyond any doubt that the poorest people suffer the most as a result of inflation because they do not have assets that insulate them from the rising cost of living. The inflation tax, the liberal inflation tax, takes from the poor and gives to the rich. It takes from the have-nots and gives to the have-yachts. So when the reason why the food bank use has gone up by over 100% during the massive expansion of liberal government spending and deficits is because the inflation that spending has caused has landed on the shoulders of single moms and seniors and others who can't pay their bills. So when we talk about capping liberal deficits, it's not to please accountants who are looking at spreadsheets. It's to stop inflation so that the hardworking, the working poor, the people who get out of bed every day and work hard for not a lot of money will at least preserve the purchasing power of their dollar. Also, let's get rid of the industrial carbon tax, which again, driving up energy costs will drive up the cost of living on the poorest people. We can't allow that. Our working poor in this country cannot afford more expensive energy. If you want to defeat poverty, there's the two best ways to do it is to have strong money that buys affordable food, homes, and fuel, and abundant, affordable energy for all. That's how we're going to make this a poverty-free nation.
Oh, I like poverty-free nation. Poverty has exploded in Canada. 10% of the population is in poverty, with another 25% with food insecurity, and 35% to 40% are children. That's why they're coming out with this food lunch program, but it's all because of inflationary spending from our government. Pierre Poilievre has a plan. We all need to vote for it. Now let's hear from Pierre Poilievre on the budget.
Maybe if you'd introduced the budget at the beginning of the fiscal year, like most normal, competent prime ministers would have done, and which all prime ministers used to do, we could have affected the deficit. But, Rosie, the half to two-thirds of the fiscal year is behind us. The money's already spent.
Sure.
So I would be lying to people if I said that I owned a time machine that would allow me to go back and unspend money that Mark Carney has been spending for the last seven months. So I would like a zero deficit, but the Liberals have put us in this mess, and I work with what I got.
So you are not going to support the budget. There's no way you could do that. You can't lose an election, say Mark Carney's the worst, and then support the budget. That's not possible. Right?
Oh, well, I haven't seen the budget. I haven't seen the budget. I don't have telepathic powers to tell you what's in it. If it were to bring down the cost of living, an affordable budget for an affordable living is something that I support.
None of these things are, you know what the deficit's going to be. On that premise alone, I don't imagine you can support the budget.
But in addition to the deficit, I came with some very collaborative ideas. And I asked, why isn't the government at least considering them? I've said, let's bring down the cost of food by getting rid of the industrial carbon tax on farmers and the people who feed us. Let's get rid of the food packaging tax that adds $1 billion to food prices. The fuel standard tax that's going to jack up gas prices 17 cents. Get rid of all that, and that would make food more affordable for the 2.2 million people lined up at food banks. And if the government were in a collaborative mode, recognizing they only have a minority, they would accept my ideas for an affordable budget for an affordable Canada.
Isn't that true? Why don't the Liberals actually take some of the good ideas that the Conservatives are bringing to make life more affordable? Instead, they say all Conservative plans are bad. Mark Carney did adopt some of the Conservative plans for his election to win, but he didn't adopt enough. This is another reminder that we need to defund the CBC. Check out their headline. Pierre Poilievre won't say if his Conservatives will oppose the upcoming federal budget. That's not what he said. He said he hasn't seen the budget. So how could he say he's going to support it or not for something he hasn't seen? So this, do you see how they write headlines? Completely dishonest. So I don't think the Conservatives are going to support the budget. I don't think the Bloc Québécois is going to support the budget. Elizabeth May, she's probably going to support the budget. But the NDP, it all falls on the NDP. If they support the budget, the government continues. If they don't, the government will fall and we'll have a Christmas election. Check out Don Davies from the NDP party. Let's see what he says about the upcoming budget.
So yeah, we have said that we want a budget that invests, cutting good family-sustaining jobs that exist in the public service at a time when we want to create jobs doesn't seem right to us. But we're going to see where the cuts are. There's also a lot of rumors. There was a rumor that the government was going to cut the wage program, the Women and Gender Equity program. We saw it came out that they announced that they're going to be funding it. So that's why I think it's really important to take a good, thorough look at the budget, analyze it as a whole, and see if those investments are there.
Unbelievable. He loves the DEI and the gender and the pride thing. $660 million towards pride parades and DEI. It's absolutely disgusting. But NDP likes that. They don't like the 70,000 job cuts that are coming, and they want to see what that's all about.
Particularly on the investment side, if there's projects of national importance, if we're building high-speed rail between Windsor and Quebec and supporting mine development in partnership with Indigenous people, if we're putting people to work across this country with good jobs, that has to be taken into account as well.
Do you want an election? I don't see you tell me, do you want an election? You're the interim leader. There's other things going on with the party.
Yeah, it's, this is the other thing is, it's not about us. The reason I think the context is so important is because I think this budget should be about Canadians. Right. It shouldn't be about partisan interests and parties jockeying as to whether it's good or bad for them to have an election. Personally, I don't think Canadians want an election, is my feel. Right. That's my read of the situation. Yeah. It's only been 6 months since the last one, and frankly, given the serious issues facing us, I'm not sure that an election is good for the country at the moment. But as Mr. McKinnon said, and people have won an election, but if an election is necessary, then we're prepared to fight one.
When was the last time the government gave us an election when we wanted it? We wanted an election last summer, and they said no. Then they pro-rogue government did a leadership race, placed Mark Carney as leader. The whole thing was rigged. He wasn't elected. He was selected. Then we had our election. And before that, Justin Trudeau, during the pandemic, he called a snap election. Nobody wanted an election at that point either. They call it when they want it. And the Liberals, they might want it. This is my last clip for this report. Pierre Poilievre is bang on and nails it here. We need Pierre Poilievre to become the Prime Minister of Canada. We've heard nothing from Mark Carney about this subject. This is the leader of Canada, the one we need.
The monsters who look at this material create a profit motive for literally hundreds of kids to be tortured and humiliated in videos that may circulate for the rest of their lives. They will never recover from this trauma. And yet, these two perverts are going to get out of jail in a year and 9 months. Frankly, those sentences were far too low. And now the court says that some other users of child should be able to get out in less than that time. This is insane. It's nuts. And quite frankly, should Canadians make me their Prime Minister, I will use the notwithstanding clause, and I will bring in mandatory prison sentences for users of child porn that are far higher than the ones that were already in place. In other words, the mandatory minimums I will institute using the Charter of Rights and Freedoms will be far, far tougher than the ones the court just shut down. And finally, I will do that to uphold the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because those hundreds of kids, they have charter rights. And I'm more worried about the charter rights of our children than I'm about these perverts and pedophiles.
Good. Oh, man, I like that. Put them in jail and throw the key away. They're gone. They don't come back out. No tolerance for this type of thing in society. That's it for today's report. We have a massive budget coming out tomorrow, and I can't wait to cover the budget for all of you. I'm going to review the budget. I'm going to have all sorts of material, so don't miss my budget report. What do you think about this report? Is Mark Carney tangled up with China? Was it the plan all along to destroy our relationship with the U.S. so that he could sell Canadians? Now we're going to be best friends with China, doing everything with China. It makes zero sense. The United States, 76% of all our trade goes down to the United States. It's our best friend. We share the same culture. Most of us go down to the United States for vacation. And if we're actually serious about fighting emissions, then what we're going to want to do is trade to our closest trading partner, the #1 economy on the planet. Love to hear from you in the comments section. I'll see you on the next report.